Senator McCaskill, I worked on her Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, and I handled a lot of her healthcare portfolio, including working on veterans issues, as well as handling the U.S. Census and also disaster relief efforts. But now I work for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network and advocate on behalf of cancer patients and survivors.
Well, I bet you had a great time working for the senator.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Absolutely.
She's a spitfire and an awesome boss.
Yeah. When I used to see her making speeches on the floor and all, I could tell she knew what she was doing. That's for sure.
Indeed, and she trusted that her staff knew what they were doing too.
I love it.
So, Cliff, I thought this would be a really, really great topic for several reasons. Felicia, she mentioned cancer and with COVID going on a lot, and we know that in our community that we've been hit really hard with COVID. But with in terms of palliative care, there is a misperception about what palliative care is. Mm-hmm. And so I thought this would be a good time to really bring, to maybe help educate our audience and not to insult anyone's intelligence, because there could be a lot of people out there that knows what palliative care is. But I could even go back to the time when I was caring for my mom. And I remember when my mom had stage 4 inoperable lung cancer that had metastasized into her rib. Mm-hmm. And I remember specifically a conversation where one of the doctors came to me and mentioned palliative care. And I could say for myself, and then I had another relative fast forward to just a couple years ago when it was my aunt that was dealing with lung cancer as well. And the doctor went to her daughter, which was my cousin, and mentioned the term palliative care, although by that time I had been more educated in it. When the doctor said palliative care, a lot of times when we hear that word, we automatically think hospice. And that may not necessarily be the case. So I thought this would be a good opportunity, and Felicia would be a great person to bring some education to this topic.
I think that's great. And Keisha is a 22-year retired Air Force veteran, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And after caring for her mother... After caring for her mother, who had stage 4 inoperable lung cancer, Keisha started learning about caregiving, being a caregiver, and resources to share with other caregivers, which is just a great thing for you to do. So who wants to start? Who wants to go back, Keisha or Felicia? Who wants to talk first?
Felicia?
Sure, happy to jump right in. Mm-hmm. And just wanted to say that, like veterans, I am very touched by cancer patients and survivors. We know that many families, including my own, and as Keisha just pointed out, have lost loved ones due to cancer. And the number of cancer survivors continue to increase in the U.S., so it's important that we learn and understand palliative care, because it's become even more critical, because it can help really optimize the care that a patient receives. And just to go through some of the basics of palliative care, it is a specialized medical care, and it's kind of an extra layer of support for patients who have serious illnesses. And those illnesses can range from cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, ALS, and other chronic and complex illnesses. It focuses mostly on preventing, relieving, and addressing symptoms and side effects, and also enhancing a patient's quality of life. So if you think about it, it's looking at the whole person, and looking at the mind, body, and the spirit of the individual. And palliative care is truly composed of many disciplinaries are on the team. So you have medical specialists that range from nurses to social workers to physician assistants, even chaplains and mental health providers are on these palliative care teams, because they truly treat the patient and their family. Just like Keisha just mentioned, being a caregiver, caregivers also need that extra layer of support to even be there for their to be there for their family member while they're going through diagnosis or treatment and on into survivorship. And I just want to share with you one example of what palliative care could be, so say for instance with a cancer patient, sometimes they experience anemia and fatigue when they're undergoing chemotherapy. So a palliative care team would come in and work with the patient to figure out what's causing the anemia, what's causing the fatigue, and how they can treat that and provide some relief while the patient may be going through their chemotherapy or other curative therapies to treat the underlying disease. And if you don't have any questions, I'm happy to move into some of the misconceptions that are out there, because I think those are really important that we debunk those myths, because people often, get confused with what palliative care is and what hospice care is.
Sure. Go right ahead. One of the things, looking at your background, Felicia, I was surprised that you have a Juris Doctorate.
Yes, sir.
You're a lawyer.
I am. It was important to me to I worked on Capitol Hill before I went back to get my doctorate, my Juris Doctorate. I saw how laws were made, and I said, okay, well, it's also helpful to know the legal system too. So I went to law school to, have that extra armor when you're creating policy and creating laws. You need to know the legal perspective behind what you're doing so that you can have extra knowledge to make sure that everything that you're developing truly benefits the people that you're hoping that the policy and the law will help.
Makes a big difference. You are really to be commended.
Well, I appreciate that.
Right.
So just a little bit about some of those misconceptions.
Sure.
Palliative care is confused with hospice care. So there are some similarities. Both provide better quality of life. Both look at relieving symptoms and side effects, and there's a special team that looks at, an individual's physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual needs. But some of the differences are palliative care can be offered at any stage of a serious illness. So when you think about it, when a doctor diagnoses a person, says a person has cancer, a palliative care team can immediately be mobilized for that person. And it goes through their treatment and their therapy and also on into survivorship. But with hospice care, that's usually offered during the last phase of an incurable illness. So if the doctor says that your cancer has advanced or metastasized to a point that it cannot be treated, that's when your hospice care team is called in. And for palliative care, another difference is that palliative care is done during active treatment. Just like I mentioned for cancer patients, they could be undergoing chemo or radiation or any other therapies while also having a palliative care team with them. But for hospice, there is no active treatment being given for that serious illness. Basically, the hospice team is only trying to provide comfort for that individual as they battle those end stages. And that's crucial, because I know for me, hearing palliative care, because a number of my family members have been diagnosed with cancer and have passed away from cancer, but hearing palliative care, they're immediately like, oh no, that means hospice. And thankfully, working for the American Society, I was able to step in and say, no, there's a difference, and they're just really trying to provide comfort for, grandmother or aunt who's suffering right now. And what if it's just they need a chaplain or a spiritual advisor to help them make decisions? Palliative care, you have a person on the team who can provide that service for you.
That's great. Going to Keisha for a moment. Keisha, you 22-year retired Air Force veteran, and which I think is great. But you were caring for your mother who had stage 4 inoperable lung cancer. Is that correct?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. And doing the care, the palliative care into the hospice care that I got for my mom, it was phenomenal. And that's why, as a caregiver, I think that this is so important, because they help you to help care for your loved one. Yeah. And so you're always in the throw of things, whether it's the medical appointments, the financial aspects of it, the running around, you're Ubering, you're a chaplain, being a chaplain, you're being a counselor, you're becoming the the adult in some instances. So when you have a team of providers that can come in to help you with quality of life, I think there's even statistics out there to show that it has actually even helped extend the life of a person because of the quality care that they get. And so for a caregiver to be able to sit down with that person that's receiving the care or those different providers and be able to talk out a plan of this is what we want to do and this is how we're going to help you, it's very encouraging, and it really could help relieve some of the stress off of you.
I'm sure it does. And you spent 22 years, you retired from the Air Force.
Yes, 22 years, Air Force. Now, I will say, although it's a little diversion from the topic, but Felicia does have military history, her family. Is that correct, Felicia?
Yes, I do. I have family members who served in World War II, and an uncle who was in Pearl Harbor, actually. Woo. And I had an uncle who served in the Persian Gulf. My brother is a West Point graduate.
Oh, my goodness.
I know, and 2 female cousins who are active duty Air Force, and one is active duty Army. So, it's a rich history in our family.
It certainly is. A West Point graduate? That's great.
Yes, sir. We were all like, wow.
Yeah.
when he got accepted. And while I did not choose military service as a career, I do understand and realize how important veterans are to the men and women in uniform, and also veterans are to our community. And I think it's just so important that we provide as much support to them because they have made such a sacrifice to our nation, and a selfless sacrifice. So anything that I can do to advocate on behalf of them, I have done in my congressional career and on into the patient advocacy world. It's been near and dear to me.
Well, I commend you both. I just think it's great what you've done relative to the military, because we need that. We really do. It's yes.
Right.
Yeah, and even
who wants to go? Who?
Well, I wanted to point out just that the VA has truly a delivery model system for palliative and hospice care that is unique and highly respected in the palliative care community. A lot of palliative care specialists got, a lot of their knowledge from palliative care by working in the VA system. And the VA really has developed interdisciplinary palliative care teams that provide consultative services for veterans, and they're focused on continually improving the quality of care that veterans get. It's part of the standard benefits package. It's a serious operation over there, and they need to be commended for the work that they've been doing.
I think that's great. And you were going to say something else, Keisha?
Yes, and I was going to say another reason why this topic is so important, because when you think of military, a lot of times we're taught, we're trained, we keep a lot of things to ourselves and we don't express them and we don't share things. And sometimes whether that's can play out with PTSD or different things. So you may not even tell your family member some of the things that you're dealing with emotionally. So it goes right back to this in terms of caregiving and different things like that, why it could be so helpful for a palliative care team to be a part of you in helping you, the person or your family member with that quality of life, or dealing with that issue or that tragedy, or maybe something that you saw or something that you dealt with, even within your health.
That makes so much sense. One thing I was so pleased to see, and I'm sure you ladies know about it, it has to be now about 3 or 4 years ago. A lot of people talk about females in the service, but there were 4 African American women that graduated from West Point at the same time. Did you see that? Yeah, I thought that was so great, that you would have these ladies, that because women do well in in the service too, without a doubt. You know,
most definitely.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, most definitely.
Yep, that's right. Well, give us a close.
Sure, happy to. I will say to make it relevant to what we're dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, many of our many patients are unfortunately without palliative care. So it's important that we do have a robust palliative care workforce and doctors available to give them the care that they need, since so many are without their families at their side right now when they're going through treatment and the doctors are treating the virus. But we need somebody to be on hand to treat the whole person, the mind, body, and spirit. And if you need more information about palliative care and the differences between that and hospice care, you can find that on fightcancer.org or just simply cancer.org, and you'll get all the information that you need. And I hope that this has been helpful for people who are caregivers as well as those who are battling with serious illness.